Hey everybody, Matt Gear here for the Geek Pride Casts on this Monday evening. With me tonight, as always, we have my co-hosts, Peter Ray Allison.
Good evening, everyone.
And Jonjo Cosgrove.
Hello, friends.
And our special guest this eve, we have Faith Elisabeth Lilley.
Hey, lovely to be here.
With the most impressive background. Like, I've got this crappy sort of like ADHD, I collect too much stuff background with everything everywhere. You got yours all neat and tidy in a row, looking good.
I mean, I'm just going to say you can't see what's going on in the rest of the room. I try and leave it at that. Or like under my desk where there's barely room for my feet.
If it can't be seen, it won't be cleaned.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. Okay, so, Faith, who are you? What do you do? What's your thing?
Wow, who am I? That's a bit of a loaded question to go straight in there.
Well, it's everybody's question. We do everyone.
Yeah, it is. So who am I? I mean, I'm just a woman who loves role-play games, movies, and like a bunch of nerdy hobbies, and likes making the world a better, more fun place. If you want to find me by my job, we'll talk about that in a bit, I guess. But do you want to talk about hobbies first, or anything like that?
What is the job? What is it? So what is the job?
All right. So my current job is I'm the Chief Product, People and Partnership Officer for Wherein, which is a new digital platform we're building. Think D&D Beyond, but for every game you'd want to play, and with an all-inclusive model. So you're not being pushed to buy books, you just subscribe and then you get access to everything you want to play.
Awesome. Okay, that's Pete sent me when he was sending me a description of your job. It's C3PO.
That's right, because if you're going to, like, when you build a startup and you get to pick the roles, so the founder of Wherein, Jason, it's like, so Faith, what job title do you want? Like, these what I see like going to be the best things that you're going to be at. I'm like, yeah, sure. So these are the things I'm going to be doing. Let's look through appropriate job titles, and that one jumped out like CPPPO, but abbreviated C3PO, because if you're going to pick your own job title, pick one that's a good pop culture pun, right?
Very good indeed. Okay, so we'll start with the I think we'll start with the company stuff. We can sort of then divulge into the nerdiness of hobbies and things, because I think that will segue into all kinds of craziness. So we might as well get the business side of things out of the way, and then we can move into that afterwards. So explain to us about Wherein, what it is, what you're trying to do. Yeah, just go.
So it's born out of passion of being in the role-play industry for over 7 years now. I started my career in tech and doing support and being a developer and a software engineer. I did a degree in software engineering. Moved into being an analyst, project manager, product manager, program manager, QA manager, business change manager, and the list goes on and on and on with these titles. And I was working for a company where I was being lined up to move into a director role, and I just hit the point where I realized that what I was doing wasn't making people's lives better in any way, and I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I had no passion for it. So I went contracting for a while to build up some bank accounts, to give myself a bit of a buffer, and then decided that I wanted to quit what I was doing in financial tech and go work in D&D for a living, which is what I told the careers advisor when I was 11 I wanted to do, and was told to readjust my expectations.
Really? Really? Wow.
Yeah. So I threw in with a handful of people at Curse who were building something that became known as D&D Beyond. So through only a handful of people, and joining them and helping to build that, and moving up to eventually, taking responsibility for all of the content and breakout sheets, and that was a wild trip, but it was amazing being able to work on doing something, especially through COVID, that really helped people. The approach changed as it got bigger. I think is always the case when you start looking at corporations. There was the buyouts. Twitch didn't know what to do with this, so they just kind of left us at one side and went like, "You're still making money. That's great. To keep doing it while we trying to figure out what we want to do." Then they were approached by Fandom, who wanted to buy the Gamepedia side. So they're like, "Sure, but you've got to take this D&D Beyond thing with you because we don't know what to do with that." So we ended up going over to Fandom, who were like, "We're not really sure what to do with you, but if we invest money into you, do you make more money back?" "Oh, you do." So they did that. And we had a lot of autonomy to be able to do what we wanted there. And then we were purchased by Wizards of the Coast, and everything changed. Should we say that, within about 6 months, they'd managed to say, "Hey, like what we'll do is going to remove all of the thought leaders and the visionaries who actually are what made this successful, replace everybody with imported product managers that don't really understand D&D, but hey, they'll do as they're told." And that's where that went. It's a bit of a shame, but I'm not bitter about any of that. I look at it as, I managed to achieve something truly amazing that helped a load of people, and it's time for the adventure. So that led me to working with Evil Genius Games for the best part of the year. That was interesting.
Okay, that sounds loaded.
I mean, my job there was technically CPO, Chief Product Officer, but the company had a goal of really moving into tech and being a tech company as well. So I was wearing a Chief Technology Officer hat at the same time, defining all the technology. That required a lot of time and effort, managing an offshore dev team to be able to build something that they wanted to build. I learned a lot there about being on the publisher side of things, about what it's like trying to get books out the door rather than just being on the digital platform side, what it's like working with people day in, day out who are trying to get digital art orders done or trying to get art orders done, trying to get writers to submit stuff, trying to work with all these people, trying to organize it all, trying to get the books actually out and all the logistics around that. And then you've got the other side of it, which is people going, "It's great, we like your book. It'd be great if we could play it on Roll20 or Foundry or Fantasy Grounds or any of these things." And that costs money. And one of the things about being a publisher for tabletop role-play games, especially a smallish, scrappy publisher, is you don't have a load of developers on staff to be able to do this. So you have to go out and hire somebody that knows what they're doing, or at least you hope they know what they're doing. And that costs money. And then when something changes on the platform, you have to hire them again to fix and update things, and it can get quite expensive. So I ended up with Evil Genius Games. I ended up resigning from there over a number of issues. Don't want to go into all the details here. If you want to go Google it, you can. We'll leave it at that. The CEO and I had a difference of opinion around ethics.
Enough said.
Yeah. But while I've been doing all of these things, I've been thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could actually do this kind of thing properly and do it in like a community basis? Because I've always felt that you can tell the way a company is going to make decisions based on the way it's structured. And if you look at Hasbro and Wizards or the Fandom, they're structured with venture capitalists at the top injecting money in, and the company will always make decisions to be able to generate revenue to bring that back to them. So at the end of the day, that's always their objective, is to make more money. And that's true of most startups as well, because they're trying to rush to be able to get investors to put money in, to get backers. So it's like, what if there was a way of being able to use the model that works for the tabletop role-play industry, which is start off small and scrappy, and then use crowdfunding to be able to get some money in, start small and work it up, and actually be like community owned. and build something that's better and is focused on something that people actually want and need rather than focused on making more money. And it's as I was going through all the designs for like, what could I do with that Jason approached me, was like, hey, Faith, I want to talk to you about something I've been cooking. And like we got together and talked, and it was pretty much like about an 80 to 90% match for what we both decided we wanted to do with our lives. So we got together and started going, okay, how are we going to make this happen? It involves partnerships with many of the top publishers in the industry, because we don't want to just focus it at players and GMs, but our mission at WorldTree is to level up the industry and make something that is going to be great for the people who build the games, for creators, because that's where it all starts.
Right. So you're literally creating almost a platform that networks, that basically acts like the center point for gamers, for publishers, for creators, also kind of as a meeting point essentially for playing games.
In many ways, yeah. Like as I said, the elevator pitch is think D&D Beyond, but for every game you want to play. Because hey, this is like my third time around, trying to do this now. I know how the tech works. That's not a difficult thing. Learned a lot about what to do, what not to do. That's just as important. And think about platform like that, but instead of crappy homebrew tools or having to write code in JavaScript or anything, think about having good tools that allow you to visually drag and drop or use a GUI to be able to design your game or your content for the game. Yeah, right? Like dice. This isn't difficult with all of the tools that are available and that have become available in the last couple of years to be able to build tech stacks. But a lot of the digital platforms out there currently have been around for a while, and they're built in a certain way, and it's just the way technology works. It's really difficult to then bring in new things and replace what you've got, and you end up with what you call tech debt, which is all of these things that you probably should have done but you didn't because you weren't able to. Now it's difficult because the best way to do it is with something completely different. So that's say, imagine if we were able to get all of our publisher partners to build content on WorldTree, do play tests there in a way that's going to be meaningful and useful for creators. And we're not just talking about a walled garden here. And I don't want to give you too much sales pitch here, but we're talking about enabling everybody to be able to be creators. We're talking about the entire community. We're talking about anybody that's like, hey, I've had a great idea. And up until now, my best shot really was to be able to find someone that could do some art or find some stock art that I could license, build myself a PDF and put it on like DM's Guild or put it on Drive-Thru or something like that. And that was their best shot at getting into the game. What if we build an infrastructure that encourages people to collaborate and work together and to be able to build content for games and get paid for it?
So that's actually like almost open source gaming in a sense. You create like open source gaming. Would that be
in some
fair?
respects, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, just like the way you open it up to everyone, rather than being sort of a closed community, which is essentially D&D Beyond and others, like which are very dedicated to only single game system. You're saying, why not? I mean, there's basic functionality between every game system out there. Dice rolling, for example, it's a simple functionality. Now you can get unique dice, but again, it's still a dice. So that core functionality is still there. It's just the markers are different. So you just kind of like almost open source it all. Just basically every developers come in. And what's been the engagement like from developers and publishers at in regards to WorldTree?
So that's an interesting one. So like the big one for me was early this year when I was at UK Games Expo. I'd arranged to meet a whole load of publishers. Or some of them I just ambushed them there and like, hey, we need to talk about this. But like all of them, as soon as I started to actually explain it, you could see them go, oh no, wow. I mean, that would be massive for us, right? Like replace all of these various other things we're doing with something that works in a way that is useful for us. And when I said we want to be community owned, I really meant that as well, as does Jason. So our actual plan is to make sure that we are giving equity away to publishers in the industry who actually then have a stake in WorldTree. And we'll put together an advisory board to be able to help us pick the direction for what the company should be doing and focusing on.
That's a really good idea, because that gives them a
say.
but it gives them motivation to actually want WorldTree to succeed, because they have an investment within that within your company. So that's a very smart move.
And I've got 7 years of experience doing this now, so if I want to toot my own horn a little bit, I'll be like, I don't think there's anybody else really around that's in a better place to be able to figure out how to do this. But the visionary that helped build D&D Beyond up was Adam Bradford. He went off to Demiplane. He's now over at Fantasy Grounds. Adam's great. He knows how to do things his way. We used to have some differences of opinion, so I've got my own way I want to do stuff. But here's the important thing. I always believed in we can always disagree and then commit to a way forwards. And I don't want what WorldTree becomes to be just my decision. And and Jason doesn't want it to be just what he thinks is best. He's an amazing designer. So he can absolutely make this thing work really, really well in terms of user experience and the user interface. But we really, really want to make sure that it's the industry and the community overall that are picking the direction that WorldTree will go in.
How do you? And it's interesting you talk about tech debt, which I think is a really good analogy for what occurs in a lot of companies. I worked for a solicitor's firm previously, a lot of big insurers, and tech debt was a massive, and I never called it tech debt. It was just we had old systems that they continued to use because the idea of replacing them was just this is going to cost so much money and this is going to cause so much stress. And I'm a product manager myself, so I'm going through replacement of technology and trying to upgrading things in the firm I work for, and it's a massive thing. So how do you, not because you can never really fully prevent this, but how do you future-proof yourselves so you don't have tech debt going forward?
With the way that modern cloud-based architecture works, and I don't want to go into this stuff too much, otherwise we're going to be a tech podcast here. But what you do is you design the whole thing in a modular manner that allows you to break it out into separate services, and then you define how those services interact with each other. And that's the principles of modern cloud-based architecture. So when you do have a problem with one and you want to replace it, it's difficult with a service that you're planning on being online 24/7. But you can work on a replacement or ways to scale it, and then you can replace that part of the system because it's modular. That's probably the easiest way to explain how that works. Yep. But we're talking about things like microservices and modularized shards, all that stuff.
So you're going to cloud-based architecture to kind of offload all the hardware side of things into the cloud and basically kind of run it from there, essentially. Yeah,
and I'm a big proponent of don't try to reinvent the wheel. If somebody's already invented really good wheels, why would we do that, right?
Exactly.
There's so much value we can bring with things that we can design, that we can do better, that why would we try to write from scratch a whole authentication framework for a website that can take weeks? And at the end of the day, what we've got's not going to be as good as a whole load of standard offerings that are already out there. Let's utilize those and then quickly get to the point where we can, and we are starting to build now as well. So this isn't just vaporware. We actually started on that, having completed working with various publishers to go, this is actually what people really want, and being able to nail that down. So yeah, it's
Okay. And what stage is WoTC at the moment? Is it at deployment stage, or are you still kind of building the connections with publishers?
the first stage that we went into, which is when I got together with Jason, he'd already done a lot of the exploratory design work. This was, hey, let's go out there and talk to potential partners, find publishers, companies that will be on board with this, see what it is they want, impart our vision to them, see whether they want to be part of it. And largely we found that we either had publishers who were like, yes, the industry's crying out for this, that's exactly what we need, wow, somebody's actually thinking of doing this, yes, we want on board, through to, we can't really afford to take a gamble right now because the commercial side of it looks good, but if you're wrong, it could cause us problems. So let us know when you've built it. And sure, we get that. We totally get that. So it's now time, having proved that these publishers either want on board now, or they want on board when we've built it, but there wasn't anybody saying, yeah, actually, we don't think that's a good plan. So that leads us to where we are now, recruiting engineers and starting to actually build, which is first lines of code are probably going to start getting written next week. So we're not ready for deployment yet. But it's pretty easy to do a lot of rapid development in the cloud these days. There's a lot of great tools for it, and a lot of the standard stuff just doesn't take that much time.
So you're sorry, Pete, carry on.
Okay, that's because you're in the cloud. You're no longer bound by physical locations. You can recruit from anywhere, wherever anyone is in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what they do with my company. We're sort of moving everything. It's moving into the Azure platform, and it's the future, I guess. Cloud-based technology is where everything seems to be going these days, and like you said, it means you can be. We've got devs in America, we've got devs in Australia, we've got devs in India, we've got devs everywhere in the UK. So it's easy because obviously it's cloud-based and they can be worked on wherever, basically, which is useful. Oh God, I've just completely forgot. Yes, so you were talking about dev work going forward. So obviously this is going on to Kickstarter. Yes, you're going to kickstart this.
We want to do a bit more work on actually getting things built first. What we don't want to do is to go to Kickstarter and promise people vaporware, right? We all know the horror stories.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but I've backed some stuff in the day that I'm still waiting, to see if they ever actually managed to do it. I'm like, I don't want us to be in that place. So what I really want is for us to actually at least got the skeleton up of what we're doing, so we can actually hey, look, this isn't just some design prototypes that we knocked together in Figma or a design tool. This is actually the site, even though it's sort of in development, to be able to talk about and say, hey, look, this is where we are, this is where it's going. I think that's really important. We are hoping to launch our Kickstarter later this year, but we've not locked in a date, and that's important because we'll be in collaboration with our partners, the publishers, because the most important thing there is that we're working with them not just to say, oh, look, for our game, here's another VTT that you'll be able to play our game on. The message is very different. The message is, look what we're building together.
And that is a very different message to send, because when you make it together, you kind of get the community involved, and that gets engagement.
Yeah. And like you said, there are, I've had numerous tech nightmares when it comes to Kickstarter. In fact, any Kickstarter that I've only had one non-tech Kickstarter that's failed, or sort of run away with my money. But most of the ones that are that fail are the tech ones and stuff. So it's good that you're prepping beforehand and trying to get something out, because I think there's a lot of them just think this is a good idea and we're going to do this, and it all falls on its ass, or they try to do it on the cheap, and it doesn't work.
And one of the other big problems there is that you'll often get talented designers, artists, coders, who know how to do these things, but have not really assessed the whole of the rest of it,
Yeah.
right? Like I've been working in project management for years now, and like I know how to plan and build products for the entire life cycle through to being properly supported live. One of the first things that Jason and I did when we started to work together was we worked really hard on a commercial model. Like, what's the viability? Where do we need to get to? What's the runway? Because we're bootstrapping this, right? We're not asking for investors. So that's really important to us, that we can actually get to where we need to get to and have the platform generating revenue so that it's self-sustaining.
Yeah, but that's the main goal of many companies, is being self-sustaining. I mean, there are people out there that come with these great ideas, and you kind of, yes, but how are you going to keep going? I mean, I was at a great talk by the author Mark Shadbourne. We talked about 11, 12 years ago, which is about the business of writing. And says, yes, it's great. We get to write, we get to create, you get to write brilliant scripts, articles, books, novels. But you've got to think about the money side. You've got to think about selling it and making money from it. Because, yeah, you can write. That's great. But you need to be able to manage the money. Limited companies, filing tax returns. It takes time. It's a pain. But you do need to kind of do it. And all too often, people just don't think about the side of things. I mean, it sounds like a jaded view, but unfortunately, you do have to kind of consider the money side of things, because if it doesn't, it will fail. You need to eat.
Exactly, that's fail condition if you don't get it right. And I've said that our goal is not to make a pile of money. That's not where we're at. I'm not planning to get rich off this, honestly. If my goal was to be wealthy, I wouldn't have moved into tabletop roleplay games in the slightest. I would have stayed with the cushy 7th floor glass windowed office and the director title, right, and the large salary that came with that. But it's about being responsible to the company and making sure the company is responsible for the partners and all of the people who are using it. So in many ways, the Kickstarter campaign we're planning on doing isn't vital for us to get this done, right? So that's the important thing. What it is, in many ways, is it's the way that a lot of the tabletop roleplay gaming industry works now. It's pre-order mechanism, it's a way of gauging interest, and also importantly, it's a way of sidestepping just throwing lots of money at the Meta platform for adverts. Because we looked long and hard at it and talked to quite a few publishers about this, and the problem with Kickstarter or any way of trying to build a new platform is how do you get the word out? There's a new VTT is announced every 2 or 3 weeks, right? Some of them are really good, but they've got no idea how to market it. They don't have the reach, they don't have the connections, and therefore it's just destined to fail pretty much. Because all they've really done is they've taken the existing one and maybe added a few more features in some way, and as good as it is, the way that business works, you've got to be 10 times better or have a unique proposition to be able to get people to move across. So by working with all of the various publishers who already use Kickstarter for all of their books, or not all of them, but a lot of them use them for quite a few of their books or their flagship products, they already have mailing lists and ways of being able to go about this. I don't want to go into too much of the exact details of goodness, but it means that we're able to share the funds from the Kickstarter with all of our partners, rather than giving it to a faceless social media giant for advertising.
Right.
Yeah, because you are collaborating with all those publishers, you are able to kind of, they are sharing it out because they are collaborating with this platform. So they are, I suppose, emboldened or not encouraged. It's in their interest to share it out and raise awareness of it.
But then
it's about the core principle of just working together. That's the whole idea.
And you have a captive audience there. You're not sort of spaffing money on Facebook ads that may or may not reach people of interest. The people who you're going to target directly will definitely have interest in these products because they've backed one previously. So yeah, that's an amazing idea.
Yeah. I mean, also one thing as well is I never appreciated until really this year just how much virtual tabletops, online platforms, the game have become, how big they are. I mean, I appreciated during lockdown because how else could you get a bunch of friends around a table unless it's virtual during lockdown? But I thought now it's kind of out of lockdown and COVID, while still here, we have measures in place to mitigate it. People still use virtual tabletop a lot, and yeah, it's almost become essential now.
And like, let me talk to you a little bit. I obviously can't go through direct numbers because commercial confidence.
Of course.
But one of the first things when Wizards of the Coast acquired D&D Beyond, and my role was moved across to senior producer for digital there. So I was one of a handful of people reporting direct to, three of us reporting, four reporting direct to the exec board. And one of the things that there was a panic on at the time was the game appears to be overall getting bigger, and indications are more and more people are playing D&D, but the sales of our books are dropping. We're making these amazing quality books, but the sales are dropping. And there was a real concern about it. And I actually just kind of laughed, and I'm like, what? And they're like, what? And I'm like, the overall numbers are going up, but look at what's happening. Like, even over 2 years ago now, Wizards of the Coast were earning more money off the D&D Beyond side of books than they were from the physical books, or more revenue even, not just like profits. So it was wild. We'd start looking at it through that lens of success and adoption. And there's a lot of things that site's even missing in terms of what you would want to do with the digital platform with the VTT. Everybody likes things different ways, whether you want to be based around a map or whether you want to be based around a character sheet. And philosophically, I think they've all got it wrong, but that's for the topic.
Okay, you said philosophically they've all got it wrong. Where do you think the focus should be?
Campaign.
Yeah.
So what's the first thing that you do? You do one of two things. You either say, I want to play this game and I need to find some people to play it with, or you find some friends or people to play with. People you play that aren't always necessarily friends. They might be people at a local game store that you've never really met, and go, okay, let's play a game together. So it's not focused on one person's character sheet. It's not focused on a map that you put on the table. It's focused on a campaign, which is a digital representation of a table that you play around and you pull the seats up to. And then, sure, you can put a map on that. You can get your character sheets out. You can pull books off the shelf or out your bag and put them on the table. And that's the philosophy that we're mapping.
So literally a virtual table. That everyone
and not like not putting a VR headset on and looking at a table that kind of way, right? But architecturally, that's the way we're approaching it. And think of it like this: if I decide that I want to play a game of trying to think something that's not I'm going with things not just D&D, but if I decide I want to play Cyberpunk. And okay, cool. But there's several different versions, so I decide which version I'm going to play. I want to play Cyberpunk Red. I love Cyberpunk. Okay, which books are we going to use? Because they released a whole load of little books that serve the various different additional rules and content. I'm like, I don't like elf lines for our game, though, so I'm not going to include that. So the GM or as a group, we could decide which books are actually involved in that. And then when you go to build your characters, it only uses the books that we've all decided on in this campaign, because those are the ones we've put on the table to be using. And that whole philosophy follows through the way that we approach things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, just basically, you kind of, again, as you're saying, the campaign becomes a central focal point where you all have a kind of idea of what everyone wants to do, and it removes the ambiguity there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much D&D any of you have run, but like, I like running games for some people, and they're like, "Cool, I like we're running Grim Hollow, and it's dark and it's sort of gritty." And someone's like, "I cast Silvery Barbs," and I'm like, "Isn't that from the Strixhaven book that isn't on our list of books we're using?" "Oh, well, I learned it anyway." And I'm like, "Okay, do you want all the monsters to have that spell?" And they're like, "Oh no," and I'm like.
Yeah, we've got a 4-year campaign currently that's been running for. We stream most Thursdays. It started in lockdown, and has been sort of kind of. It's homebrew. It's very fast and loose with the rules. It's basically more rule of cool and storytelling than sort of any sort of major. Like there, obviously we try to adhere to specific rules and things like that, but we have. There's a lot of homebrew stuff going on, but it's 4 years.
It's very narrative.
It is very narrative based and stuff. It's all about sort of them. It started off me building things for them and then them not doing any of it because that's what you do. And they literally spend days and days and hours doing things, and then they go off and do something completely different. To me, basically having a concept of where I want them to get to, or the big bad guy and the sort of in-betweens between it, and they just do whatever they want to get to that point. So they basically lead the story by themselves, and it's worked fairly well, to be fair. Only a few hiccups as we've gone along, but yeah, 4 years. They're level 15 now, I think. We're aiming for 20. The problem with high level D&D games is they're all gods, and it's very hard to throw them anything sort of substantial. Like I had this big sort of like bad guy called Huthway who turned up initially when they were like first starting, and they'd sort of battled him and nearly got killed, and they dealt with them, and then he came back, and because we were all like level 15, they literally swatted him like a fly, like barely. I had this big thing about all this is gonna happen, but because I forgot to give him legendary saves and things, one of them just went, "I'm going to banish him," and I was just like, "Oh shit, I can't do anything about that," and so I kind of I sort of fudged it, and he came back, but even so, they destroyed him like super quickly, and I was just like, okay, I need to learn my lesson about high level players now, and yeah.
That is one of the things. I'm one of the DMs at D&D in the castle at Elveston Castle, which is week on Saturday, in fact. I think I'll be seeing you there as well, Faith.
Well, it's just down the road for me, and I'm absolutely turning up. That sounds a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it's 10 minutes away, so it'd be rude not to. And I thought I'm not going to have any player characters created by the players because I don't know them, they don't know me, and I have a very specific idea in mind of what I want this game to be. So I'm creating like just 6 4th level characters: fighter, a thief, wizard, really generic as possible, because I want to be accessible. I don't care what's on the character sheet. How you play your character, that is how you define it. The stats is like, stats, that's what you do. But I mean, like I said, it's all about narrative. And also, I think what Matt was saying about power levels, once you hit 5th level in D&D, you get a certain level of damage output increase. Major, like wizards learn fireball, fighters get like 2 attacks. At that point, you start doing like collateral damage level. Buildings aren't safe when they hit 5th level. Yeah. So I can put that. I capped it at 4th level because they've got survivability. They could take a few hits, but they're not going to destroy the entire city.
It's funny when you talk about high level. I I was on the hook for running until that evening. I'm like, oh, and this is for like pretty higher level characters. So I'm like, I've got an idea. So they turn up to this town that's been destroyed. That's all I've told them. It's just like rubble. And they start looking around, asking questions. They find like a survivor. They're like, we're looking around for survivors. And I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll make a check. Yes, they do. They find a survivor and they talk to them like, what was it? I don't know. Was it a dragon? Yes, it was a dragon. Was there more than one dragon? Yes. Did it breathe fire? Yes, it did. But it must have had some other abilities. Looking around at the rubble, did it have other creatures with it? Yes. Were they demons? Yes. And all the way through, the players are asking questions, this NPC doing investigation work, and I just answered yes as they built up what the monster was they were there to find.
That's amazing. I'm using that stolen taken.
And like they sussed it afterwards when they like got to meet this thing that by then was a demigod dragon ancestor with a horde of demons with it, and they're like and they lost, but they're like like you just said yes all the time, didn't you? You picked what it was.
It's like Ghostbusters, choose the form of your destroyer.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. Yeah. I find, to be honest, to curb the shenanigans that it gets thrown out. Obviously, they all have shenanigans. So you throw anything with a stat block at them, and they've got a way around it in some way, shape, or form. I find the best way to deal with them is giving them something that has no stats. I've just made up out of my mind, and I'm just sort of kind of talking them through, and it's more within the story, so they're not thinking about rolling dice and stats and things like that. They're just sort of embraced in the story, and they don't do as much. They don't get up to as many shenanigans that way and stuff. They're more willing to accept, things just happen, and it doesn't matter how powerful they are and stuff. That just shit just happens and stuff. And I find that's a good way around it, because you can just sort of embrace them in the story and go with that. But as soon as you throw a demon at them with a stat block, they're like, right, well, he's got a stat block, I can do this, and then the rules lawyers come out, and then they beat that thing pretty easily, and you're just like, right, okay, fine.
Yeah. We regularly group run games for they love the collaborative storytelling side. That's like my favourite way to run games. Sometimes they actually want to tackle that like, I'm going to move over here and do this and that, and like, look how clever I am dropping this spell here, and I'm like, okay, cool, that's cool as well. There isn't a wrong way to play games. Everybody's having fun. Nobody's getting hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that said, one of my other favourite things to do around collaborative storytelling is to give players more narrative control than they used to. And we're like, cool, okay, that's a great idea. I give you narrative control to describe to me how the rest of this scene plays out. And they're like, oh. Some of my players are really fun with that, and like, cool, like no dice rolls. I'm like, no, like you've got this, like your characters are really powerful. Just tell me how it goes down, So they'll go through the whole description of things. That could be pretty rewarding, and people really remember those and talk about them for years later. Yeah,
I agree. Like I do the same. I'll go, right, okay, so this has happened. You've rolled this on a dice. Tell me what you're doing, tell me what happens, and they sort of kind of go with that, and I think they really enjoy that, especially with, where they just come up with something and the rest of the party are like, whoa, what just happened, and like the whole thing is just sort of, everybody talks about it in the WhatsApp afterwards and stuff, and it's amazing. I think embracing the story and the storytelling really sort of helps with the narrative.
Have you ever tried running a false Hydra encounter?
Yes, the false Hydra is amazing. I've run it twice, so we did it once. Our first intake into, like, I haven't played D&D since I was a kid, and during lockdown, myself, Pete, Mark, who's in the campaign now, a guy called Ben, who used to DM for us and stuff, and who else was in it? Dave, Mark's friend Dave. I said, like, I'm going to do one. it's just a tester, and I did a false Hydra, and it was quality. It was so good because it's all about investigating. Nobody has any idea what's going on. The weird stuff's happening, and it got so good, and it ended so well that I tied it into what we have now, to the point where in our last session, they went back to the city where, well, the village where the false Hydra had sort of said, and sort of there was sort of some bits and pieces going on there. But I also did it where there was 3 players who hadn't been in the one shot I did, and so when 2 of the players couldn't make it, I did the false Hydra with them in another part of the world I created, with similar things going on, just sort of change some bits and pieces so they could do it as well, and they loved it, absolutely loved it, to the point where some of the people who had been forgotten, I basically had like, my brother's character had effectively had a girlfriend called Augury who he had no idea about until when the false Hydra died. Everything suddenly came back. So there was all these relationships that all these people had that suddenly started flooding back, and all these people who they realized had been there the whole time throughout. I said, you remember that time in that session when Augury did this, was doing this, and like, I don't remember that. I said, yeah, that's because you've been affected by the full Hydra. This happened, and it's like, it's basically like they were there originally throughout the whole time. So I started giving them all these little bits of story where they had done stuff as characters, but obviously had forgotten about it, and then now they had remembered that this happened. It's such a good story.
My only disappointment is that we did not get to follow through in my idea against the first Hydra, which was, to do a big metal concert. Because loud noise disrupted the mind control, I wanted to do a metal concert in the centre town hall. I was playing a wizard, and I thought, well, we've got Thunderclap, we've got Fireball. You
used both of those, Pete, and you nearly killed the party with your Fireball. Because we basically...
I get we come back to like the whole level 5 thing.
we basically said to him, we had it, so I basically did it so they couldn't, like, I didn't want them just sort of trying to kill it if they saw it and stuff. So I made it so big that it had these like towering heads over the village, and it was basically singing.
I didn't appreciate how big it was,
like,
Matt.
It was sort of, its song was sort of like singing, and that's how it was doing. And it had this sort of underhive sort of thing where they could go and try and take out smaller heads and kill its heart. But for the main part, they had these big, massive heads towering over the village. And Pete basically said, if I see anything, I'm just going to fireball it. And I thought he was joking. And then he basically did a perception check.
I think never joke, Matt.
And he had a mirror. And then all I see is these dice get rolled. And I'm like, oh no, what have you done? And I was like, dude, I can't get you out of this because this thing is going to just destroy you as soon as you do that. And so I had to basically give one of the other guys a chance to do a perception to make sure he was doing it, and 2, a dex to basically push him out of the way so the fireball would go off somewhere else, which he thankfully did, and it destroyed the inn that they were in, and then had to be sort of kicked out.
Matt, it is the D&D session, unless the inn is destroyed. You know that. It's a tradition.
And then there was the thunderclap as well. Then there was thunderclap, which basically destroyed, and you fell to the ground. And it was just it was just like, oh yeah, but yeah, amazing, yeah. I did an article.
Thunderclap, I think, as I recall, was like, no, it creates like air. So I thought, well, blow out the fire by using the thunderclap. The air from the thunderclap. That didn't work either.
Yeah,
I think my favourite moment when I was running was when one of my players who's playing an artificer is like starts to realize that shit's up, and they're like they've forgotten things and stuff's going on. He's like, wait, I've got a great idea. I've got this ability to be able to record short messages.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, cool, you do, yeah, absolutely. He's like, right, I'm going to use that to record a message. And I'm like, have you got any uses of it left? And he's like, what? I've not used it. And looks at his character sheet playing online, and he's like, I've not got any uses left. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, wait, I'm going to check if I left any messages. And I'm like, click on it and have a look. And he clicks on it, and I just put in there like 12, which is the amount of times you could use it, messages that all things like, do not forget, do not go to sleep, and stuff like that.
Oh, man.
And he's like, I left these messages for myself, but I don't remember doing. Oh.
It's so
That
good.
is fantastic.
As like I was so impressed by. I did an article for the website on it, and this is like, well, I mean, 4 years ago now, 4 years ago, and it's just like, just as something, especially to introduce people into D&D as well, you get a bit of everything. Like, we had a little bit of combat, it was more investigation, there was some narrative stuff going on,
and a lot of role players. I mean, that's the key aspect. A lot of role play involved in it, and
it was just great because you had the whole, like, I just loved like you doing stuff and then people disappearing and them going, but what about that person? I was like, what person? You don't remember that person and stuff, and then and all this other things, and then sort of like going, well, what the hell's going on? And it was just like, it was so rewarding for everybody involved. It was just so rewarding. Yeah,
I think what I found especially is I'm leaning further and further away from dice rolling in my games. It's more leaning into the collaborative storytelling element. For example, when I run my D&D games at D&D at the Castle, I say, well, if you're going to run lockpick, you're a thief. You're going to pick a lock. I'd only ask you to roll lockpick if there's a time-based element. For example, can you pick that lock before the guard comes around the corner? That sort of thing. Rather than, I'll just say, pick lock, fine, you pick the lock, you get in. I mean, it's all about kind of keeping the narrative flowing, keeping the focus on the storytelling rather than the dice rolling, because that just gets in the way.
I have a core rule in all of the games I've run, which is don't roll dice unless I ask you to roll dice.
Yeah.
It's like players that are like, I want to sneak around, and like, boom, there's stealth check rolling. And I'm like, what are you rolling that for? Well, I want to sneak up. And I'm like, well, either A, like, it might not be possible for you to do so, but you're good at stealth. So I'm going to say, hey, like, you look at all the angles. And you're like, no, they've got it covered. They will see you coming. It's just not possible unless you go invisible. Or, maybe I'll be like, yeah, I know that they're a little bit tired and aren't really paying attention. And I don't even need you to make a roll because narratively, this character is amazing. They're one with the shadows. That's their whole thing. And it will ruin the story if they roll like a 5 or less on the D20 and fail the roll, right? Like, why would I want to do that as a GM? Like, I know that there's the whole, the dice can tell the story, but collaboratively, here's a thing this player really wants to do. It's what their character's good at. I want them to be able to do that and get in and get the information. Let's just take the dice roll out and say, yes, that's great. This is how it goes down. Describe to me how you sneak around there and what the reactions of the guards are whilst you're moving past them. And that makes it a way more fun story for me.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the middle with both of these. Like, I do a lot more narrative, and dice rolling isn't as heavy, but there are things, because dice rolls can really tip things on their head, and I just like, so my brother's character, he's a ranger, he's like super stealthy, super dexterous, he's like, he's John Wick in sort of D&D effectively, and he like has this thing, but we had these like traps that he was meant to sort of dodge through, but he kept on failing his rolls and getting like, and we have a thing where crit fails and crit successes work on everything, so like it doesn't matter what it is. If you get a crit fail in anything, something really bad happens or something really stupid happens. If you get a crit success, then you can explain something super epic that happens. And so we would get crit fails, and I was like, you sort of get, you cockily sort of thinking you're the shit, sort of kind of do this sort of flip, but you sort of flip straight into the flames and set your new cloak on fire and all this other stuff, and everybody's laughing and stuff. So I kind of like that, things where these people who it gives them a bit of humanity, that they think they are gods, but every now and again something really bad's going to happen to them, and it downs them a bit.
That takes me back to my hey, as long as you're playing the way that everybody's having fun, it's okay. Because that sounds awful to me. It's a way to play the game. I can straight out say that I wouldn't want to play that game, and that's okay, right? That's okay.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I wouldn't. We've gone through a lot, and I think I've learned a lot on. Like, I started overcomplicating a lot of stuff at the start. Everything was overcomplicated, and it was just some people were just struggling with it and stuff. And I found with the narrative side of things, that worked a lot. and we now just have set rules on certain things. It might not be what's sort of written down, but we always have every crit pass, every crit success works across everything. There will be ways to sort of. I'm extremely lenient with them. Like I'm not out there to kill people. One, because it's streamed, and two, it's been going for so long. I don't want them dying and stuff. So they do stupid things. It's not going to kill them. It's very likely there's going to be a way out of things as long as they can sort of narratively get themselves out of it. It's not a massive issue and stuff. But yeah, the dice rolls now and again, messing with them just adds a bit of comedy to it, and everybody seems to like that, so it works really well.
I did find it interesting when I was running the D&D game is I had the player's handbook, the DM guide, the monster manual, and during that 6-hour campaign, I never looked at it once. I never looked at any of them. I was just like, well, I'm just running with it, and I never read it. I never once looked at the books at all for reference or anything, which is just. I don't care about the books. I don't care about the key element of the story. I want to tell a good story, and that mattered more to me than we'll stick to the rules. The rules are crucial. Well, no, the rules are flexible. The number one rule is have fun.
Agreed. I think the rule.
It's interesting when I've played games as well, whether it's friends running it or whether it's just people at conventions and stuff. I spent several years where a core part of my role was being an expert on the D&D rules, to the point where if we needed to understand how the character sheet should do something at D&D Beyond, that was my responsibility to go, okay, this is how it works. This is what the rules mean. This is how it actually works. We've all seen the Twitter responses from Jeremy Crawford about stuff, but there's a lot of other bits and pieces where it's like, oh, it's up to the GM, and it's like, well, we need to pick one or the other. What does it actually mean? So that's meant that in a lot of those games, GM go like, okay, right, this is what happens. This is how this works, and I'm like, poker face, and then my friends every now and then we're like, Faith, is that how this works? I'm like, no, it's not. It works like this. And they're like, oh, okay, thanks. I'm like, don't be the rules lawyer. Don't be the rules lawyer. Don't pull people up. If we're having fun, it's great. But I have had times at conventions where I'm playing games and someone's asked me what I do for a living, and I've told them, and then they've tried to explain how D&D works to me.
You're doing D&D explained.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I think if you get too sort of bogged down by rules as written, you can find yourself there's some guys on TikTok who do basically they show you how you can break games with specific builds and specific things and stuff like that. Like any large game, and I play a lot of water games and stuff like that, any large game with too many rules, there's just interactions with a lot of them don't work as well.
Unintended consequences.
And things will break. And if you are a strict purist and have things as they are, you're going to encounter some really annoying things are going to take the fun completely out of the game. That's why I always have this, because ours is homebrew, and if somebody tries to rules lawyer me, and I go, #homebrew, man. No, it's not working. That's just not the way it's going to be. Everybody understands the way it is. Everything's very fast and loose. Does it work narratively? Fine, that's fine. Does it work if it's something you're trying to and it's going to cause a problem for everybody else? Not happening. Not going to work. Sorry, no. And that's the way it is.
My response to my players is always like, okay, cool. If that's how you want to do this, we can do that. But just remember the monsters are going to do it back. Yeah. And the rest of the party, you'll be like, no, we don't want it to work like that. This plays outnumbered.
I actually saw a video of some guy. He's got a beard. He's quite big on TikTok and stuff. He's got a beard and he's bald head. He does a lot of sort of kind of D&D builds and sort of the ones you can.
We're talking Will from D&D Shorts, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah.
Will's a great friend of mine. He's a sweetheart.
Yeah. I love his videos and stuff. But I think he did one where it was like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this, and the guy's like, okay, but my monsters can do that now, and they're like, I was like, yes, that's it. Well, if you can do it, the monsters can do it as well. So I was like,
I remember this great piece of advice in the referee's guide for Cyberpunk 2020, Listen Up You Primitive Screwheads, where Mike Pondsmith said, listen, take all your characters, all the player characters, write them down, change their name, and therefore that is the opposing team that your players have to go up against. Use the player's own tricks against them. And thought, that's genius. Yeah. It just makes things so much easier. Oh, really? Yeah, my guys can do that as well. You got plus 20 to attack and 10d6 damage. Yes, so do these guys as well. They're doing really well against you, aren't they?
Well, that's why my brother's character has a twin brother in the game, because I thought I could pit him against himself, and then I had this whole story about them meeting up and having this big fight, and he was basically going to fight himself, but he managed to talk his way out of it, and now he has him as a sidekick. So he's got his twin brother as a character. He's been in through it for a long time. I've just let him go with it and stuff, but he did sort of like I give bonuses if they do a speech and it's really well, and they really just come out with something really cool. Like the rule of cool is a massive thing. So if they just come out with something that's really good, I was like, okay, yeah, man, I'm gonna have to give that to you and stuff, and then just let him have it and stuff. And so he did. So I didn't get the fight between them, and he just sort of they just went, okay, that's fine. And now they're
you did get some fantastic role play, and I think that's what matters.
Exactly. Well, that's it. That was it. So it's just like my aim was for them to sort of have this sort of arena fight, which was basically my brother's character fighting himself, and the idea was that it didn't matter which one died, because he could carry on, because they were the same. It would effectively be, if they died, like what he could carry on as the other one, who's basically a carbon copy of him. But he just worked his way around it and got out of it and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to give you to you, man, because that was really good. So he's got his twin brother who basically follows him around now, and they do stuff together, and it's really good storytelling stuff. So yeah.
So I've been a big fan of live action role play since 1989 when I first started doing that.
Oh, wow.
I once was involved in a bit of plot where I was doing the monster role, where the person running it was like, okay, so the party, like there's 8 of them, and kind of each have to fight like a shadow of themselves. But I need someone to play it who's got a really good grasp of those roles. And I'm like, sure, I'll do it. But I'm not sure that's fair. And they're like, what do you mean? No, it'd be fine. It'd be fine. You know how to fight? And I'm like, yeah, I'm quite good at fighting. They're like, yeah, that's fine. All 8 of them lost quite comprehensively, even though they theoretically knew their builds a lot better than me, because I've got better hard skills after quite a lot of fighting and a background in full contact martial arts. The way I started up.
Yeah. Well, what martial arts do you do?
Oh, I've not studied for a while now, but full contact karate was what I first started in and studied up to black belt.
Wow.
Then I've done some jiu-jitsu and some aikido.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
No, I did. I do a fair bit of kung fu, and I have found, like when I've been LARPing at Lorien Trust at Locker Park, is a lot of because we do a fair bit of sword training. Like, hang on, this feels similar to what I'm doing on every Tuesday night, and yeah, it's just interesting how that kind of informs your own approach.
A lot of it's about the footwork and balance and awareness. That's just huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you one thing that really I'd love to try LARP. I've got a load of friends who do it and stuff, obviously Pete included. But I was watching Empire. I was watching some videos of Empire and the big battles that they have. That between obviously the different sort of guilds and stuff against the orcs and stuff. And I was getting really frustrated. I'm a military historian. I grew up. I hate doing history and stuff. And you've basically got individual heroes trying to fight these things, and then they're not working as teams and stuff, and they're going out and getting killed, and I'm just like, oh my god, man, just stay in formation. Somebody just get them all, stay in formation and fight properly and stuff. And it was just frustrating me and stuff.
it's pretty fascinating, really, because let's take a sidestep to other stuff I do in my life. I'm a co-head of department for the skirmish team. So the weekend, and we're responsible for, along with a guy called Tom, who's head of the battles team, for making sure that we put on those battles and get the monster side set up and working, what all the tactics are, how we're going to approach it, scenarios that are interesting. And one of the big things that I always say to people that's hugely important is we're not trying to win as monsters in a meta sense. That's not our goal. Our goal is to accurately portray the roles within the scenario that we've come up with, and to give the players the opportunity to lose, which is a very fundamentally different thing than we have to shift with. But it's, players want to run around and try and be heroes rather than fighting in formation. They're probably going to lose. If they want to charge off into the woods, like, and split off from the main body of the player units, they're probably going to lose because my team's units are just going to go, oh look, and just kill them.
Yeah.
But it creates a believable world that reacts and has consequences to your actions, but doesn't punish you unfairly. And it's one of the things I hugely love about that game.
Yeah. Well,
I have found that in LARP, it's like everyone is a hero in their own mind. They are the hero of the story in that particular LARP, because they are the focus point. The key is almost stepping up to be the leader and yelling at people to, right, you do this, you do that. I mean, when I was doing this side quest for the militia team at Wherein Trust many years ago, I was just yelling, you go there, like, form up. And I wasn't bossing people. I was just basically, no, we form up, we make it fight as a unit, not as a bunch of individuals. We have to work together. And the hard part is getting everyone to work together and listen to what you're saying, but without overruling them. And it's
taking their fun away.
It's basically leadership, business leadership 101.
It is leadership, and it's one thing I also talked to my team about at Empire as well. It's like, hey, this is great leadership training if you encourage and empower the team there. In the same way that I do stuff in my professional capacity, it's all about empowering people and teaching them and getting them to be better at what they do and what they want to do. So yeah, I'll write references to my team all about their leadership skills and abilities. That I have zero problem doing that. And it's some really valuable skills that they learn, because as you say, if you step into that situation and you give sensible orders that people can understand, you have got a way better chance of success than just everybody figuring out their own direction.
Do you have anything downloading or anything in the background? Your audio sort of slipping in and out and stuff. And have you got anything?
No, I will just make sure I've exited Steam just in case it's doing stuff it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's just now and again it goes a bit and you zone out and stuff. So I just want to make sure. But yeah, I just found it amusing because it seemed like the opposing, like the orcs and stuff, seemed to have a lot more discipline because they don't have anything to lose. They're literally and they were working as a team. Whereas I was watching these videos of these small units of guys running off and getting killed, and I was just like, oh man, that would frustrate the hell out of me and stuff. But then I found out there actually is groups of them that work together to sort of build up formation.
I know a story that in Wherein Trust there is what is basically unofficially known as a penal corps, where basically there is these people that go for rehabilitation, and this rehabilitation leader has said, if they meet their goals, these are young offenders that have been rehabilitated, and if they meet their goals and keep a clean record, they will go LARPing. And basically they've got formed such an identity amongst their characters, and they're working towards being able to go LARPing against at the various fests, that they've basically formed their own penal corps, where basically they are part of the corps, and it works. I mean, these guys are working. If if they fail, if they don't meet their goals on the intervening weeks, or if they get into trouble, they don't go. They lose that opportunity. But if they work hard, they meet their goals, they adjust the challenge that they have to meet, that's their reward. And they go to it, and they kind of take pride in the fact that they have achieved it. And they kind of form the identity of being this kind of penal corps. And it is, if you see that penal corps coming over the hill and going towards them, you're fine. You're going to be fine, because these guys know what to do, and they work as a unit. And the best of them work as a unit, because, as you say, they collaborate, they're able to kind of, benefit from each other's abilities rather than being an army of one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, there's a lot that's being explored and is still being explored about using tabletop roleplay and LARP as, as therapy for helping people. Because, one of the great things about all of roleplay, whether it's tabletop or live action, is that you're in a controlled environment where the actual real world consequences are less, because you're playing a character. So you can try out negotiating with people in a aggressive style. You can try out, various other things. I've got friends who, have explored their gender identity through role play, and I think it's fascinating that we can do all this with role play. It's just one of the reasons I have so much passion.
Well, I mean, it's like the role play, especially tabletop, is like this liminal space. As you said, you can try out different aspects of our personalities, whether it's gender, sexuality, culture, what have you. But because it's it's the fantasy realm, there is no impact in the wider world. Furthermore, and also another element that I have noticed is that even though we know the events are fantasy, we still refer to them as an autobiographical. We approach it as, I did this. We know it didn't happen, but in the realm of the game, I did. I went out and punched a shark. Now, okay, I didn't punch it, but Draken did.
He did.
It was a dumb idea.
He punched a shark in the game. It was hilarious.
And also, it's kind of one of the best things I ever did way back in the 90s was I did a bit of a mental experiment. I played these two games. One was Vampire, one was Star Wars. And the Vampire character, I'm kind of putting all my negative personality traits. Lazy, hedonistic, bit of a shitbag, really. And then my Star Wars character, because of the nature of the setting, I was all my positive traits, the faithful, loyal, stand up for friends. And whilst the Vampire character was fun to play, because we always like to kind of explore that dark side of a personality, my Star Wars character was much more satisfying.
I can't play bad guys. I have this sort of.
We all have a bad side.
I always have this sort of guilt thing. Even when I'm playing, if I do anything bad in a game, even if I said something by mistake nasty in one of those multiple choice things, I feel guilty and stuff. So I can't do it. I'm always my characters are always the same. It's always a guy, he's a fighter, he's trying to do his best, he's trying to be a good person and be a hero and stuff. I can't do bad things intentionally. I might do something that I feel is for the greater good. I'd still feel guilty about it, but it's always sort of lawfully good sort of thing. It's I can't be a shitbag. I can't be the bad guy. So it makes me feel bad.
This is the problem, because obviously I don't really play these kind of games, but I really want to be a bad guy. I think that's the problem. I want to be the shitbag.
I don't know, because I can get the impression that I've had a few games where I've been playing where there's been a character who was playing and he was playing an evil character subversively, and it as much as it sort of sounded like a good idea, it derailed the complete campaign and it pissed off a lot of people and stuff. And I've had a few instances where somebody's doing that and being subversive. Yeah. And
you got to play it. I think it's what's best. You got to play it appropriately. I think it's the best way. If you're going to play it back, play it appropriately. Don't be a complete shitbag. As in, there are ways you can play a character that is nasty but not exploitative. That doesn't attack the other players. That does not demean the other players. I mean, it's like vampires are classic case. Vampire the Masquerade is a classic case in point. Yeah, you are literally playing monsters that drink human blood. There's no way that's a nice guy.
Yeah. Oh,
What
again,
you
I
need
couldn't
to
do it.
those, you
So-
need to frame that in the game, though, because everybody needs to be on. If you're playing a game collaboratively, and that's the key, collaboratively,
Yeah.
You need to have a common understanding of what the game is. If I've got 5 players all trying to play a heroic fantasy game, and one person says, look, I actually want to play an evil assassin who's going to try and steal stuff off the party and sell them out. And I'm like, that sounds like a great idea for a protagonist in your own story, but it's going to suck for this game.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
at some point they will
You've
suss
got-
you and then they'll kill you.
Yeah.
Right?
You've
And,
got
like,
to set
that's
the
no fun.
baselines. Need
Or
to set
you'll kill them.
baselines.
And then we've got real world antagonism bleeding over into that, and that's no fun. Same with LARP, right? Like, you know, a lot of these games have PvP. Empire, for example, is a political PvP game. Sometimes that gets to the point where knives are happening around the back of the building and people characters get killed. It's, you know, doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. And if you view that as like, oh no, I've sufficiently pissed people off that they've had to take the risk of doing that, then, like, you know, maybe I've kind of won.
Yeah, I you know, the one I said when we first started, it was, you know, I haven't done a lot right in my 4 years of doing it, but at the start I said, look, everybody has to be on the same page here. Everybody has to understand what we're doing. If you want to be evil players, everybody has to be evil players, and it has to be a campaign based on evil players and stuff. If you want, it's either that or you're good. I kind of let neutral with a bit of mischievous, people being mischievous, but the sole goal was you're heroes. You're trying to save the world. You're trying to save this land. You're trying to do good things, and every now and again you would get people who wanted to sort of do that darker edge, and as soon as they started doing it started winding other people up and stuff, and it was just sort of, because they were going against everybody else. Was like, I'm trying to do the good thing here, I'm trying to do this, and then because that one player wanted to sort of kind of, you know, be a bit too mischievous, it started derailing things because people were getting annoyed, and it ceased to be fun then, and that's where your problem is.
Yeah, there's always like an element of like the appeal of being the fish out of the water and like being the odd one out. But you can only take so far before we start being excluded effectively, because you are so far out. I mean, I remember playing a Star Trek role playing game, and I was playing, like, everyone was playing Starfleet officers, and I thought, well, I was the security officer, and I thought, well, what happens if I played him as a pwn from Aliens? So very, very practical, very militaristic, and it was interesting playing this character where he had a kind of very militaristic mindset, really, like, very tactical, very strategic, but was going up against the ethos of Starfleet, which made it an interesting discussion. But you could only take it so far. You had to really manage the character appropriately, so you didn't just completely derail the entire game. But yeah, it can be done, but you do have to be a lot of care.
It's interesting when you're saying you play characters that like just you, and I always used to start off like that with like my characters on me, but I'll take one bit and, like, you know, like you said, people, like, you know, you magnify traits. Right? I'll take, oh, here's me, but I'll move this slider up. So, you know, I'm more caring than I would be normally, and I'm less aggressive than I would be normally, or whatever, for this character. But through LARP, I kind of like that, like, I can put myself in a headspace with an entirely different character. My friends are like, so I know you don't normally like playing like evil characters, but we get this game system called Omega. We want to play these ratkins who worship, like, and sacrifice stuff. I'm like, I mean, sure, I'll give it a go. There was quite a bit of PvP happened at that game. I was wandering through the woods late at night with one friend, and we were like, there's these rat creatures. He's like, I'm really worried. And I'm like, what are you worried about? And he's like, what if there's bad things in the woods? And I'm like, we are the bad things. And like, at the end of the night, because I'd been set a goal by part of the plot to see if I could, like, kill X number of player characters as a player character myself, and I think it was 8 I had to get. But I was like, this is working really, really well. I got myself into a sticky situation where people were coming to try and investigate what was going on. I actually ended up killing 24. And I'm like, this is not for me, this side of the game. That happened like the once, and I'm like, I didn't enjoy it. I felt bad for so long afterwards because these people had put effort into their characters and their kits and like all this thing, and had built up relationships, story, and then somebody jumps out from a bush and stabs them and they die, and like that's the end of their story, like bleeding in a ditch. It's not a good end for a story, right?
No, I completely understand. With me, it's literally, it's me. How my morals compass in my characters is the same, but like you said, sliding the bar up, and it's basically who I wish I could be, maybe, as in like it's me, but who I wish I could be if I was braver or sort of like stronger or whatever and stuff, and it's literally that, and that's how I play pretty much all my characters and stuff.
But I mean, that's the thing with role playing. It's like, we can be that. I mean, back in the 90s, back in the 80s when I first started role playing, I was very timid. I was very shy. I was such a nerd, didn't have many friends. But I started role playing confident people. And I started like, there's someone that would step up. And as I started becoming more confident because I was busy getting experience through being confident in game, I was able to kind of channel that learn experience into the real life, and I did become confident, and I do kind of like, and you have to be, and I was kind of like, I can do that. Then if I've done it before, I'll do that.
Let me tell you, like, this is a brief story, but I told you my background's like software engineering, and like my first actual tech job was in support, and then I started doing coding, went through and did that analyst work. And I wanted to apply for this job that was a technical project manager, so it'd be part working with code, but part project management. And I'd not done any project management. So I'm like, how am I going to get this? And I was like, I know what I will do. I'll write myself out an index card that's my character. And I'll put down my key traits. I'm confident, I'm organized, and these things. And I had that for reference. And I went into the interview playing the character of Faith, the confident project manager who knows her shit, and has been there, seen it, done it, and just knows how to roll with this. You just like you can't surprise me with it. I've got a plan, right? And I've got a contingency, and that's just how it's going to be. And I rocked it. I was like, so impressed. My ability to be able to talk and be confident about the approach to everything. They're like, and the interview, they actually were like, hey, we've got a more are you available to start next week?
Awesome. Right. Okay. Because it's getting slightly later, and we've not heard much from Jonjo. John's being sat there very quietly.
This is the problem. I like to learn. I like to learn about this stuff because I am determined that I will one day get into tabletop stuff because 35 is never too old to learn something new. And
considering you're surrounded by people who play this all the time, so yeah.
I see. Look, I've got. You hear that? Yeah, change careers at 35. So no pressure now. It's like, yes, come on, you got to do it now.
I'm 46. I was quitting financial tech to move into role play. So.
Well, there you go, Jonjo. You're never too old. There you go. Right, but anyway, Jonjo, as it is your time to shine, that time of the evening now, your thing. So it's Jonjo's news. I won't say news hour because we don't have an hour, but Jonjo's news 10 minutes.
Do you know what? This is the thing as well, because I was thinking like to have like a bit of an intro or something like that, and I was trying to think, wouldn't it be cool if I could just like put on a pair of specs or something, and, But you know what? The only thing I've got is this is from about 12 years ago from a night out, and trust me, it don't light up anymore. But this is literally that is the only thing of glasses I have. This is the only thing I have, And I took these off of a friend of mine who kept messing about with them when we was at a party, and yeah, I just never returned them, and they just still sitting by my computer.
Them.
Yeah,
You
don't worry, I don't speak to that person.
Yeah, theme tune as well, right? Like you need an intro theme.
Yeah,
Yes.
an intro.
Come on, Matt. Let's get an intro. What's the budget?
You know what? You know what? If you do, because it's only a thing. It's something because you've only just started coming back on the podcast after a long hiatus. Yeah. But as this seems to be a thing now, here if you do it more regularly, Jonjo, I'll get you some theme music. I've got a Steam Deck. I'll stick on some music for you, and you can do your thing. You just need to find out, Jonjo. It can't be, what it's going to be. Remember back in the day, if we look back in the sands of time, the Geek Pridecast from the very, very sort of when we were on Google Hangouts, like way back in the day, we used to have sections. We used to have sections with little sort of kind of little intro-y type things. So, hey, by all means, bring it back, man. If you want to.
Sections, I thought you were going to say something else.
Here's a challenge for you then, Jonjo, since we don't have that lined up now. 5 seconds, beatbox your own intro.
Oh no!
Challenge mode. You can do it. I believe in you.
I'd just go. I don't know. Let's just go something Joe like. Bop, 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 bop.
Awesome. Awesome.
I'm out
right.
here.
Awesome.
Okay, right. So let's go through some new stuff, and I'm gonna. The first thing I've got to talk about is something I'm quite disappointed by, because it's a film that I'd say I have been looking forward to seeing, but unfortunately the sequel to the 2019 Joker film, for later due, which is tanking at the box office.
I'm going to see it on Wednesday, Jonjo. So you better not ruin it for me.
No, I haven't. I'm hoping to go. No, I haven't watched it yet. I'm hoping to go and see it during this week.
Okay.
But I didn't realise this until the weekend. This has got a budget of $200 million.
I don't think the first one did too well, to be fair.
No, the first one. No, the first one was on a budget of $58 million and earned over $1 billion.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
The first Joker film earned over $1 billion. Basically, people wanted to go and see it, and it was an intriguing premise. It obviously had a big all-star cast. This looks like it might not even earn a quarter of that money.
I enjoyed the first one, so I'll reserve my judgment until I've seen it.
Same here. And I was just shocked when I saw it's a 33% Rotten Tomato score. But then critics can get it wrong, so who knows where they're. And one of my acting heroes is coming back to the big screen, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, right. Yeah, he came out of retirement, didn't he?
Yeah, he's going to be starring in a film by his son, Roman, called Anemone, which it sounds intriguing. I don't really know much about it. I don't think there's much out about it. But the last film he done was a film called Phantom Thread, which was all right. It was good. It got him an Oscar nomination. But basically, he could just appear and smile on screen, and he gets an Oscar nomination. He's good like that. He's good like that. As we do acknowledge the this mortal coil that we're in, we had the last few weeks the passing of Dame Maggie Smith and Chris Christopherson.
Oh shit! Yeah.
I mean, Chris Christopherson is a genuine legend. I mean, both like in person, he was lovely. I mean, he supported Sinead O'Connor and loads of other people. But I think we all just remember him as Whistler in Blade.
Oh yes, and do you know what? That was the thing as well. After the death was announced, I did actually watch the first Blade film the next day, and I still really enjoy him in that. But I honestly forgot that he actually dies at the end of the first film, and then he comes back in the next one. It's like, oh no, he wasn't really dead. I think it's just like, no, he said he wanted to come back. How are you going to say no to that?
You do not say no to Chris Christopherson.
It's sad because you talk about Maggie Smith. I'm a massive Downton Abbey fan, and I just finished watching the second film. And she dies in that and stuff, and it's very it's very sad because she's a massive character throughout the series and the films and stuff. And obviously, then in real life, she just died, and it was just like, oh man, she just died on screen. Now she's died in real life. It was really sad. It really hit me hard because it's like I really liked her. So, yeah.
Joe, that kind of reminds me of was it when the Last Jedi came out? When obviously because it was a year after Carrie Fisher had passed.
Yeah.
And I remember that first 10-15 minutes into the film when when the room's blown up in the ship that she's in, she gets sent into outer space. I thought,
we don't talk about that part, Jonjo. We don't talk about that part.
Hey, trust me, it's better talking about that than talking about Rise of Skywalker.
Do you know what? No,
I mean, can we not just talk about Blade more? That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing I will not talk about because I'll go on my high horse about Star Wars and stuff. But the only thing I'll say is as much as I kind of wish they had killed Princess Leia off in the Last Jedi, I'm kind of glad that they sort of carried it over because what they did with her in the Rise of Skywalker worked for me as a sort of swan song for the whole Star Wars series and stuff. What they did with her, so I part of me sort of okay. As much as I hated that Mary Poppins moment, I hated it like with all my being. I just like what?
It could have been done better.
Yeah, I hated it. But I'm glad that she wasn't killed, and I'm glad that she had those moments, especially when Chewbacca got his medal, and I was just like, oh my god, man, that's such a callback to the very first film and stuff. I just, I was in tears when that film came out. But yeah, anyway, carry on. We can go back to something else.
Okay, I've got two more things. So it's not been confirmed yet, but it looks like we may be getting Doctor Strange 3 as early as 2026. I hate doing it to myself because I will look at these things online and I'll spoil them for myself, but you keep seeing the rumour mills come up. Sam Raimi's apparently coming back to direct, which if he is, that's good because I really enjoy Multiverse of Madness. It looks like potentially Doctor Doom is going to be the villain of the piece because this is apparently going to be set after Avengers Doomsday, which is intriguing.
One thing to note about all this is 2026, that is literally 15 months away.
I know, that's scary.
Wait a minute.
And given the production time required for these films, that is not long.
Wait a minute. No. So Doomsday is happening and then Doctor Strange, or
well, because have you ever read the Secret Wars comics?
Well, I know the sort of the general. I haven't read them all, but I know the premise behind it all. Yeah.
Cover to cover, all of the different versions of that.
Yeah, because apparently the plan is between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, the 2 or 3 films that are going to be on between them 2 Avengers movies are all going to be set on Battleworld, which is a very intriguing premise to say the least, and to have this go for a whole year of movies is definitely different. And if Marvel can pull this off, it is going to be good, but
they need to do something. As much as I love the Marvel films, it was becoming somewhat stale. Yeah, and stale. And yeah, they did need to do something. So yeah, I'll be interested I'll be interested to see how the new, as much as I loved Henry Cavill as Superman and stuff, I'll be interested to see how the new Superman pans out and how the new DC universe sort of kind of goes, what they do with it, because they've got this sort of lull with the Marvel thing going on where Marvel are trying to find their feet again, trying to get themselves back to where they were, and they can steal a march on them now, but they need to be quick before all of this.
They won't.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to agree, Faith. Yeah.
I mean, just look at what Marvel's got next year. You got Captain America: Brave New World, which the big selling point of that is that you've got Red Hulk. Could carry the film, but we'll see. And then you've got Thunderbolts, which is introduced in Sentry, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. The trailer for that was pretty good.
I'm really liking the fact in New World Order, they're kind of going back to that kind of political thriller style of Captain America in the The Winter Soldier.
Mm.
That was one of the best MCU films because it was not a superhero film.
Yeah.
It was a political threat, and
agreed.
it worked. It basically kind of, what if superheroes are spies?
That's like why Rogue One's the best Star Wars film, because it's not about space wizards. Space wizards. It's not about space wizards. It's a fucking war film, and in space, and it's awesome. Yeah.
I'm not supposed to talk about Rogue One.
Don't do it, Jonjo.
Jonjo, I want to ask you, 28 years later, what do you think?
Oh, 28 years later.
28 years
Oh,
later.
yeah.
Oh, do you know
UK
what? I completely
currently, I know people who are involved in it.
Oh.
Like some of the photos that are coming out of some of the sets.
The Clan podcast.
They've,
Because I when 28 Days Later first came out, I was and I hate to do it to you guys because I know you would have been old enough to have seen it in cinema, but I wasn't. But I remember going to my boot sale, and about a week before it was due for DVD release, there was someone who had a whole box of 28 Days Later's DVDs, and obviously, you know, I was 13 at the time, and obviously, you know, there's no quarrels to a young teenager buying the film. It's like, yeah, go on, have it, £5, why not? And I loved that film, I really did. And even 28 weeks later, I really enjoyed as well.
I've not seen 28 Weeks Later, not because I have no inclination to do it. I've just never got around to watching it. So is it worth it?
It's good.
It's a different movie. It's differently paced. 28 Days Later, though, it's one of the best horror movie soundtracks for me.
Amazing!
Like that
ending, yes,
like ending doom of the main soundtrack.
Yeah. Agreed. Love it.
Nothing really beats that one. But and also as well, I've just obviously we'll go on this continues on this tangent for a little bit. Apparently, 28 Years Later was filmed apparently all on iPhones.
It was iPhones, but they used the iPhones were the cameras, but they used a lot of very super expensive lenses over the iPhones. So it's like, fair enough. Kind of.
Basically, the iPhones were the data storage.
Yeah.
Enough.
Pretty much. Yeah. You can see them like these, like it's all filmed on iPhones, and then you watch and you zoom in, and there's this like £3,000 sort of kind of zoom lens that sort of kind of like pan lenses there, and it's like, which is being sort of jury. Say it again.
It just gets them talking points,
doesn't
it? It just gets the talking points. Like, it's you got to get the news headlines in before that film comes out. Okay, and just the last thing, and I was really hoping that, you know, Pete just didn't read the internet at all today, because this was this was something that, do you know what, I've begged and hoped this was going to happen for years. So
I'm married, Jonjo. I'm sorry.
Was that?
I said I'm married. I'm sorry.
Oh, do you know what? If another reality. Anyway, so one of my favorite games of all time is Alien Isolation. I absolutely adored it. I remember I played it through one night when I had really like bad flu bug. I just could not sleep. I just couldn't do anything. I remember I played the game straight for about 12-13 hours. I absolutely got hooked on it. I loved it. And I've played it again a few times overwards, and it was one of them games that I really hoped they were going to bring out another one. I really hoped they were going to continue on with this story, because it's set between Alien and Aliens. It follows on from Ellen Ripley to her daughter Amanda Ripley, and Joe, it was that first Alien film. That's what I really enjoyed. It was atmospheric.
Oh, he's frozen.
Oh
no!
You're gone, Jonjo. Now you're back.
What?
You're back.
God, I was just about to say no. Don't say that. But do you know what though? It truly is, for the first time in a while, it was a video game that actually made me jump. It really got
one
to
of the
me.
reasons I've never played it, because I'm a coward and I hate games like that. I literally cannot deal with that sort of shit, man. I have to, can't do it.
There's only one video game that I've ever had to stop playing because it was too scary, and that was Fatal Frame.
don't think I've ever played that.
Don't know that one.
Yeah.
Oh, it was on the Project Zero. Basically, Resident Evil, fine, not a problem. Silent Hill, gloriously creepy, love it. Fatal Frame, nope. Basically, your child walking around with a mystical camera, and you have to take photos of the ghosts before they get you. And it's really it's heavily inspired by Japanese horror. So basically you're a Japanese child walking through this haunted mansion, learning about these ancient Shinto rituals to keep the demons at bay, which requires the sacrifices, but in the most horrendous, torturous sacrifice possible in order to appease the demons. And you have to go and to capture take it. You don't have guns. You don't have and you can't sort of shotgun a zombie. You can't run away because you walk. All you can do is take photos of them before they get you. And it's just so chillingly creepy. I'm just I sit going, no, I'm not going to get stressed out. I'm going to sit back and enjoy the game. And I'm just kind of becoming increasingly hunched over and getting more and more tensed up. Thought, nope, I can't. And I've had to stop playing because I just cannot do it.
I practically had that.
Game then. What's your go-to comfort game to play?
Oh my god! Oh, Control. No. Alan Wake.
Oh,
I do like Alan Wake a lot.
I'm holding off because I am a big fan of physical release games, and that put me off Alan Wake 2 when they announced it was just digital only. But they are releasing it physically in the next few weeks. I can't wait to play it.
I don't think I've bought a physical game in a long time. It's weird. It's like I'm the same. I used to like having I have boxes and boxes of old sort of kind of games from the Xbox games, Mega Drive games and things like that. But I just everything I've bought now is digital.
What's your go-to game, Faith?
My go-to game,
your comfort game
for over 10 years now. It's been League of Legends.
Oh, wow, okay.
And interestingly, when my wife and I got married, and I'm like, where do you want to go for our honeymoon? She's like, I know where we want to go, and we booked it. And I was at work and talked to my team. They're like, where are you going? We're going to Paris. Oh, are you going to the Eiffel Tower? No. You're going to go to the Louvre? No. You're going to go to Seine? No. Where are you going? We're going to an old TV studios in the northeast of Paris to watch a video game tournament for a week and a half.
Yes.
And that's what my wife wanted to go do. So that's what we're doing. And then when we come home, we're going to go watch the quarterfinals at Wembley. That's my comfort game, playing that, because I can just jump in, play it for now, and then put it down. My backup always used to be Ark. I think I've got about 4,000. I got about 4,000 hours played of Ark.
Wow.
With friends. With friends.
Yeah. I must admit, I don't have time to kind of cultivate friendships online with MMOs because I have family with 3 children and everything else, and so I just want to be able to jump into a story and experience a story.
Yeah, recovering WoWaholic, so I don't go near MMOs really anymore and stuff. I had to stay. That was like crack. I was deep into that game for a long time. From when it started to, I think I stopped after Lich King, but I just had to because it was just getting to the point where it was taking up my entire life.
Yeah.
Listen, I used to get home from work and I would get through the door and rush upstairs to my computer where there'd be people waiting to summon me because I was the main tank for our raid guild.
Raids.
To be able to go in to do the raid. And I'd get the computer fired up and they'd summon me in buff, right, we're pulling the boss. And I'm like, cool, let's go.
Thing is, my missus, my wife, is she plays an online MMO. What's it called? Undawn, I think it's called Undawn. She does it on her phone. Some of them play on her PCs and stuff. But it's like watching me like, you know, back then and stuff. Like, she's so zoned into this game and stuff, and like she gets really annoyed if she can't raid, and if, you know, people depend on her to do certain things and stuff. I was like, man, I and she talks to me about it. It's like, I know, but you can't talk to me about it because I just don't want to know. I need to stay away from that. I need to stay away from it.
The World of Warcraft side of things, like that actually helped me out professionally in the end, quirkily.
Oh, okay.
So I got involved in all the elitist jerks forum stuff, like all the theory crafting for warrior DPS, build those spreadsheets with Mansoul and all that. Then started working with people to build the original threat meter mod, and I was writing add-ons and
wow, I used that meter.
Putting them up on CurseForge, and like, you know, CurseForge would send me all these Amazon vouchers. It's great. But that's how come I knew some of the people at Curse, which is where D&D Beyond was born.
Oh, nice. Wow, okay. I just got to a point where I found myself, and like I said, I'm ADHD, so I was just sort of like hyper-focusing on this one thing, and I just caught myself on where I was on my Griffin, and I was flying around. I can't even remember what city I was in. I think it begins with an O. I can't remember what it was called, but I was flying around on this thing, bored as hell. I was in this game and I was bored because I was trying to find a healer and a tank for some instance or something. I was just bored, and I was just sitting there kind of going, holy shit, man, I could be going out and doing something with my life, but all I'm doing is sitting in this game, flying around with people. It wasn't even people from my guild online. I was just sort of, I'd rather be in the game being bored than out in my life being bored or doing something. And I was neglecting my girlfriend at the time. I was neglecting my band. I was neglecting all kinds of things. And I caught myself on, and I went, I'm not enjoying this game. I'm actually just doing it because I feel compelled to do it, like I have to, and there was a lot of stuff that I just wasn't enjoying, and at that I literally just remember parking my DPS warrior under a tree. Again, I can't remember exactly where he was. I can see this physically where he is. He's under a tree. I logged out, I uninstalled the game, and I never went back. And I just went, I can't do that anymore and stuff. And that was it. I was just like, and as much as people go, oh, you should go back, and I'm like, I can't do it anymore. Can't do it.
I have a screenshot because whenever my character like be fully decked out, like, you know, in like Ironforge or Stormwind, and I always let people standing around to inspect, because like best geared character on the server with all of the achievements for the server first and everything. And I just went and stood on the steps to the bank, covered out, and there's a whole crowd of people standing around me, and like took a screenshot, logged off, uninstalled, and I've still got that years ago.
Wow, yeah. I always think about it, it's like, would he be there still? But it's just like, yeah, I can't. It's just like I've still got friends. Like I've still talked to people who I was in the guild with and stuff, and you know, I'm glad of that. But something that has no end to it, that makes me want to carry on doing something over and over again is not good for my mental health.
You have to make it go an end. You have to
it has to have an ending. Like I dabbled in the Star Wars one, the old not the Star Wars
the Old Republic.
No, was it the Old Republic? What was the one that they?
Yes.
Was it the Old Republic? Yeah.
Because you had Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, and then they done the MMO.
Yeah, I did the MMO. But the thing is, it had a storyline to it, which, you know, I really enjoy, because BioWare they had some quite good storylines to it. So I had the storyline to it. And then it ended. Now they had raids, but because my story arc had finished, I didn't feel like I needed to carry on, because like in WoW, that didn't feel, as much as there was a story, it didn't feel like my character had a storyline. It was just I was a part of something bigger. Whereas this one, it had a thing, and my storyline came to an end, and I could put it down then because it ended, and I didn't feel like I needed to go off and do other things. And that was, for me, that's it. It's like, as soon as the storyline's finished, I just stop a game. So it doesn't matter if there's side quests and stuff like that. If I finish the storyline, done. That's it. I'm done with that game, and I just move on. That's like, my story's over now. Okay, I don't need to do anything else, and I carry on. Keeps me from lapsing.
Anyway, yeah. So Alien Isolation's getting a sequel. That was the that was a burst. I just thought, hang on, there was a point to all this about 10 minutes ago.
That was some serious segue. How we got from Aliens to World of Warcraft and then Star Wars.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we went through a whole thing there. You know, we never would have normally have had that if just some idiot like me just went, oh, let's talk about a game from 10 years ago. It's finally getting a sequel.
Are you done with your news, Jonjo? Is that the last one?
Yeah, that was
I've got
my
a question for each of you. Then I want to know, what's your favourite dinosaur?
Ooh,
dinosaur.
Diplodocus.
Yeah, I was going to say that because I grew up. Do you ever remember a series called Dino Riders? It was like they had cool toys, and then there was the cartoon. My brother had the pterodactyl, and I used to call it the Diplodocus, but the Diplodocus. I had the Diplodocus, and he was always my favorite dinosaur. I was like, I love the Diplodocus. So, yeah, there you go, Diplodocus as well.
I'd have to be boring. I'd have to say the T-Rex because I don't know. T-Rex I just always found entertaining, and I actually used to remember thinking such power but such tiny arms, like, you know. So he could cause a lot of destruction, but hey, don't worry.
Potentially had feathers as well, Jonjo. Potentially had feathers.
Yeah, that was addressed in Joe. This is how weird it is. I remember this in Jurassic World. They kind of addressed that thing, didn't they, about dinosaurs apparently having feathers, and they went, well, we can make them look however we want to. You know, that's the point of bringing them back. Okay.
And raptors are a lot smaller than they are in the films. They were sort of kind of like turkeys, the size of turkeys, apparently.
Yeah. Although the Utah raptors were closer to the size of the ones they used.
Yeah. What about you? What's your favorite dinosaur?
Me? Yeah. I'm going to say, I mean, like, here's the thing. As we talked about, I'm very neurodiverse. Favorite anything I find difficult because it's much more grounded in the now. My favorite thing today might not be my favorite thing tomorrow for a variety of factors. I typically answer this question with either Deinonychus or Styracosaurus.
Ooh, right, yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I was a big fan of the Triceratops as well. I quite like the Triceratops as well, just because it was always fighting T-Rex in the films and the cartoons and stuff like that. Though it probably
Styracosaurus has got more spikes.
Yeah. Is that the one with the one it's got on its back and it's got the big sort of ball and chain on its tail? Is that the one?
No, that's an Ankylosaurus we're thinking of there.
Okay, yeah. Need to get my dinosaurs up and running.
The Stegosaurus does have which is like a great piece of nerd knowledge. You know where that name comes from, right?
No.
So the end of I think it's tail. It's got like spikes on it. That's known as a Thagomizer from the Far Side cartoon, where they drew dinosaurs and like cavemen, and Thag was always named the cavemen that got killed by it, and they thought it was a Thagomizer, and that came into actual science. That's the actual scientific name.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow. I love where sort of kind of like science, like the word meme was coined by Richard Dawkins to do with sort of genetic sort of things passing on and stuff, and it sort of became a popular culture sort of reference now. So, but you don't think of Richard Dawkins and sort of pop culture as a thing that intertwine each other, but he created memes. Yeah.
But I did do that as a pub quiz question once before. I mean, when I remember saying that as the answer, and I just heard one person very clearly go, "Bullshit!" Yeah. Like, no, it's true. Look, I'll get the source up for you now so you can see it. Well, clearly he doesn't make memes. I went, no, he doesn't make memes. He came up with the anyway. Right, that's fine. Question 2.
I'm not doing biology or atheistic sort of conversations. All I'm doing is doing all the memes that you see on Google. Yeah. That's my job. All the memes. Right, is that it, Jonjo? Our news
Yeah,
section.
that was it. That was it. Unless there's any other segues that we can.
No, we're getting super late now. I think we actually should probably knock on the door. I don't even think we've got time to do our pop quiz now. I think we're verging on 2 hours.
No, man, we're hitting need 2 hours. We're past 2 hours. So yes,
there you go. Okay. We will leave it there. Jonjo, you have to have a theme song for next year. A theme song, sing the theme song for next for next time. Something good and some paper so you can kind of do this at the end of it.
I've got to make sure it doesn't actually cost us any copyright strikes or anything like that.
I can get you some AI sort of stuff, John. I've got that. What?
No AI.
No AIs.
No AIs. Okay. Well, my entire job is AI based, so I can't. It's in my blood at the minute. Yeah, sir.
Yeah, please don't.
We're trying to stop Skynet from rising. What are you doing, Matt?
My friend said he said something to me about you should ask your boss about the amount of because all of the power of AIs and does it conflict with company policy with the their what's it? You're sort of the green side of it, where they're trying to sort of offset carbon and stuff. But obviously, if you're using a lot of AI, there's a lot of usage being a lot of usage, and therefore more greenhouse gases and stuff like that. Yeah,
basically, there's a lot of high power demands using AI because they require high processing, which requires energy, which in turn generates heat, which also requires cooling fans. So there's a massive all that needs power, electricity, which therefore drives the carbon footprint. So they're massively carbon and energy intensive. And basically, there is a way that you can use AI to manage power demand, so you can drop it. Drop the energy levels by optimizing the systems, but you're still driving, carbon increases.
I think
Alphabet, Google's parent company, I think Amazon, please don't quote me on this one, have actually ditched their zero carbon policies because their carbon footprint was increasing because of AI.
Yeah, I think
you could do like a whole session talking about AI. I don't think there's a real time to get into it. But
sorry, that was my tech head. I apologize.
No, fine. I will leave you saying that using generative AI is just a bad thing for creators, period, whether that's artists, writers. Normalizing its use is bad.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I have used it. My sister's an artist, so and I've seen a lot of the stuff where it's out and out just copied people's work and stuff like that. So I don't condone that sort of thing. But I can't hold my hands up and say I don't use it. I use it. More specifically just for kind of helping me with D&D games and stuff like that, and getting sort of things done quickly when I'm running out of ideas. But yeah, okay. Another conversation for another time, which no doubt we could have a very long conversation about, but it's been 2 hours and I think everybody needs to go now, so
yes,
we'll leave it there.
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast.
No problem.
It's been fun to chat.
Thank you very much. So is there when does the Kickstarter start for World Tree?
We don't have a date fixed yet, but
okay.
We will be. I'm certain that there's going to be some noise about it when we do.
Okay, cool.
And when we're asking various partners to start talking about that as well.
Cool. Well, do please come back on when it's up and running, and we'll have a chat about it. And hey, who knows, we'll go into the AI conversation and go with that as well. That'll be quite an interesting one. But for tonight, I've been Matt Geary. With me has been Peter Ray Allison.
Good night, everyone.
Jonjo Cosgrove.
Take care, friends.
And our special guest, Faith Elisabeth Lilley.
So long, and I wish you the best in life.
Bye. Bye.